Hello, I am Xarkun. This is World of Warships Legends, and today we are going to look at the legendary Japanese destroyer, Shimakaze. I will go over my commander build briefly, my mod selection, and then we will jump into some gameplay where I will give you the stats on the ship and talk about how it plays. First up, Raizo Tanaka is the commander I have chosen to helm the Shimakaze. Eric Bay and Swirsky are his inspirations. Note that he does have a skill selected in the second row that reduces the hit points. That will affect the stats. The mod selection for Shimakaze: Aiming Systems Mod 1 in the first slot, Propulsion in the second, Concealment in the third, Torpedo Reload in the fourth, and I have selected the Shimakaze's alternate torpedoes. There are two you can choose from. For the game itself, Crash Zone, Domination Mode game, and this is the most ideal matchmaking that you could possibly imagine for the Shimakaze. I am the lone destroyer on both teams, which means I will be able to exert an incredible amount of influence with this ship as far as winning the game goes, and that is just what I'm going to do. So, to start off with, one of the things that is going to help me exert this influence is my ability to spot. The Shimakaze is extremely stealthy, and as such, it will be able to outspot all battleships and cruisers in the game. That's pretty much a given. Basically, every destroyer can do that. But with Swirsky and Bay as inspirations on Tanaka, I am probably going to win the spotting game with many Tier 7 destroyers, and certainly, if I were to find one, a Khabarovsk. The concealment on this build, 4.8 kilometer detectability by sea. As you can see, I am launching some torpedoes at an enemy Roma out there. Let's talk about those. Now, I have chosen the alternate torpedo option. You get two on this ship, and this one comes with, well, they both come with 15 torpedoes in 3 quintuple launchers, 610 millimeter in size. This option that I have for this game, torps reload in 105.6 seconds. They do a maximum of 24,599 damage. They're conspicuous in the water, 1.7 kilometer detectability, 11 kilometer range, 71 knot top speed. Essentially, these are the ultimate zoning torps, and with them, the Shimakaze is sort of what I worried the Benham might be before it came to the game, and it was evident that they had nerfed it heavily. With 15 torpedoes, you can cover a lot of water, and you can use these torpedoes to great effect by plugging up zones. We're going to see some examples of that later in the game, and doing that is going to result in some pretty excellent rewards for us in the form of medals that I find fun to get. But if you don't want to use these long-range zoning torpedoes, after all, they are a little bit slow, and when they travel out to max range, like many other Japanese destroyers, they tend to spread out, and most of the time, only a couple, if any, are actually going to hit the targets you're shooting at, particularly if you have an unfavorable angle on them and they are sailing toward your torpedoes instead of broadside to you. In any case, if you want to, you can use the base torpedo option on the Shimakaze. If you do, the stats are as follows. The torps have 8 kilometer range, 80 knot speed, and they do 22,115 damage. Essentially, they are basically Udachi torpedoes, Udachi screamers, only they have a little bit of extra range, and the reload time is probably a bit longer. In fact, it's a lot longer. If you use those base 8 kilometer torpedoes, I believe it takes 130 seconds for them to reload, which is quite lengthy, over 2 minutes. With this, 105.6 seconds, not quite as bad, still over a minute and 30 seconds. I think that's minute 45-ish range, minute 50. I don't know exactly the math. In any case, they don't reload very quickly, and you don't have access to a torpedo reload booster, which is probably a good thing, since, once again, 15 torpedoes. I think only the Benham at Tier 6 with 16 torpedoes has more, and with that ship you have to flip all the way around to the other side of the ship, since the torpedo launchers are on both flanks of the ship. With these, they're right down the center. You can aim them off either side, and they are quite excellent for plugging up gaps like this one. Take a look at all those torpedoes. And by the way, we have secured the Charlie cap with almost no resistance. We are going to secure the Bravo cap with almost no resistance. There are radar cruisers in this game, and they are going to come into play in a little while, or at least there is one. But essentially, as long as I don't get too close to those, there is nothing that can threaten me. If there were enemy destroyers, I might have a little bit more difficult of a time. The Shimakaze does have guns. You can use them. There are 6, 127mm in size. They fire out to a range of 10.7 kilometers. Typical slow 7.2 second reload. Pretty bad 22.8 second turret traverse time. 1800 max high explosive shell damage with a 7% fire chance, which is a little low, especially considering how slowly these guns reload, and 2200 max AP shell damage. Essentially, this is, like most IJN torpedo boats, a bit of a one-trick pony. It relies on its incredible stealth and outrageous torpedo alpha potential to deal damage to enemies. Also extremely good for keeping targets spotted, allowing your team to shoot at them and thereby rack up passive spotting damage experience points. Good for taking caps due to its stealth, and the torpedoes hit like nuclear bombs. We've already hit 2 against an enemy ship earlier in the game and gotten 1 kill. We're going to see what we can do to this Yamato. Essentially, the Shimakaze is the cream of the crop as far as Japanese torpedo boats go. If you like them, then you are going to love this ship. Take a look at how much damage we do to this Yamato just hitting him with 2 torpedoes. It's over 30,000. I don't know if I noticed whether we caused a flood there. I think we might have. If we did, he damage conned it, but he is taking sustained high explosive spam from my teammates, so his remaining hit points are going to melt away quite quickly. Notice now that I still have 50 seconds left to go before my torpedoes reload. This reload does feel a little bit lengthy. And like I said, when launching torpedoes at a target, especially a target sailing right toward you, as that Yamato was, good chance that the majority of your 15 torpedoes are not going to hit, and you'll only score a couple. And that is probably for the best, considering just how much of a punch these underwater nuclear missiles pack. There is a Gross Occur First out there. He is going to show us how depressing it can be if you don't get the torpedoes right on target. As far as whether you should use the base Screamer torpedoes or these longer range zoning torpedoes, personally, I think these longer range torpedoes are easier to use. You don't have to put yourself in quite so much danger to get in range. On the other hand, the 80-knot Screamers are terrifying. It would be very difficult for a lot of battleships to dodge them, given their speed, although, again, they are pretty conspicuous. I think if you use the 8-kilometer ones, the detectability by sea is 1.8 kilometers, and with this, 1.7. Nevertheless, these are still pretty speedy at 71 knots. We smack that Grosser first right in the broadside. Don't get the kill, but he goes down, and we are up to 126,000 damage. We've secured, so far, both the Charlie and Bravo cap, giving us a majority of capture points, which, as you can see, has resulted in a very good points lead between us and the enemy team. We're ahead by almost 300 points, and we are even on ships. In fact, my team is at a slight disadvantage. These torpedoes rely on their alpha strike, not DPM, and you have limited amounts of times where you can realistically launch them. So I kind of just have to wait until my main armament is back online before I set up another attack. Meanwhile, this Yamato can deal with the rest of my teammates. They are only cruisers, and I have a Cleveland to contend with. Obviously, he is a radar cruiser. Now, I'm not sure exactly what he is trying to do here, but again, I'm going to utilize zoning tactics and try to use these torpedoes to kind of plug up that gap and then put one way out to the left, hoping that the Cleveland will turn that way. We will see if my prediction is correct. When you're trying to predict the path of an enemy ship, can be a little bit frustrating if they turn out of the way, and like I said, these torpedoes do offer a lot of space between them, and they are conspicuous. The Cleveland is able to notice them. I don't know if he had sonar running, but he can dodge in plenty of time. Now he's got me radared. Obviously, radar cruisers are the biggest threat to this destroyer. With its excellent concealment, you can mostly control the rules of engagement unless you've got one of these guys on you and they snag you within their radar range. Luckily for me, this Cleveland is, for whatever reason, electing to use armor piercing, and you could hear the sounds of the shells ricocheting off the armor. Don't use armor piercing in the Cleveland against destroyers. Your guns are small caliber, only 152 millimeters. Destroyers don't need a lot of armor to bounce those small caliber shells. In fact, I think the maximum armor value on the Shimakaze might be something like 19 millimeters. So that's all you need to bounce the armor piercing from a light cruiser like a Cleveland. Shoot the HE. I might have been dead if both of them had. I think there was an enemy Kutuzov out there that did hit me with the HE. And with 16,110 hit points, although keep in mind at base that number is slightly more, I am using a skill on Tanaka that decreases the detectability of the destroyer at the expense of reducing hit points. In any case, not a lot of hit points on this destroyer, certainly not as many as the Kagero. Stealth is your best friend. Now we've launched torpedoes into that gap at the Cleveland and potentially at the Kutuzov. This is where the zoning torpedoes come in. Those were not aimed at anybody in particular. They were just launched down a gap. The ships have to sail in a predictable path. This Kutuzov has absolutely no chance. He's going to take 3 of them, and that is more than enough. Actually, we didn't even need 3. All we needed was 2 to take him down. But just like that, Cleveland out there has torpedoes to contend with as well. And take a look at this. The Cleveland goes down to 2 torpedoes. We get the high caliber and Confederate medals and a devastating strike all in one move. Actually, 2 devastating strikes. So that is 5 medals all in one move with the zoning torpedoes, which just goes to show how valuable they are and what a problem it is if a Shimakaze using these torpedoes is able to flood a gap with 15 of them. Makes it very difficult for the enemy ships to avoid taking all of them. And so, in this game, 2 of our 4 kills have been cruisers. We have thoroughly dominated from start to finish by taking the capture points. 197,000 damage done. We're going to have 3,500 base XP. Shimakaze, excellent Japanese torpedo boat. Personally, I don't like them too much. I don't think this playstyle is as fun as the Khabarovsk, but if you're a fan of Japanese torpedo boats, you want to do this Bureau research project. You're going to love this thing, and it is going to cause terror at the legendary tier once more people get their hands on it. Anyway, that's all for this video. Hope you liked it. If so, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. I will see you next time. Goodbye.